and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. In a previous episode, I had talked about a hypothetical of what it would take to kill Pokemon, and in this episode, we're doing the complete opposite. We're going to talk about why you can never kill Pokemon. Nothing I can do, nothing you can do, nothing the movies, the games, TCG, nothing. There's nothing we can do to destroy Pokemon. And for this video, and because of what this channel is, we're going to focus on the Pokemon TCG. And just this weekend, I had an experience that reinforced that thought in me, that there's no way you could kill Pokemon. And I'll just tell you guys that story too. On Saturday, me and my wife invited my coworker and his girlfriend over, and we went out for sushi. And for whatever reason, I didn't remember that February 27th was Pokemon Day, or it just kind of didn't really cross my mind at the time of making plans. So I was pretty bummed out that I wasn't going to be able to watch the Logan Paul first edition Shadowless booster box break. And I don't know why. I don't know where the time came from, but I thought it was at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I was wrong. It was 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, I have no clue where that time came from or why it was ingrained in my mind. But anyways, we went out. We had sushi. We had a great time. Came back to our house, started playing games, and 9 o'clock rolled around. So, I don't care. I just decided we have a smart TV, so I put on YouTube, and we all together, while playing games, the Logan Paul Shadowless First Edition base set booster box break was going on in the background. And I was watching as everyone, slowly started watching the TV more and more, and they got more and more interested with what was going on, during the actual pack breaks. So as we're watching it, my coworker's girlfriend mentions that she has a bunch of Pokemon cards from when she grew up. So obviously, me being me, just like water being wet, as soon as somebody mentions that they have an old Pokemon collection, it's gonna, pique my interest immediately. So I asked her, the very basic questions like, what cards are they? Do you know what sets they are? She didn't have a single answer for one of my questions, and that's fine. But as we were watching it, it's not really fair to watch a first edition booster box being open because you're talking the set with the largest majority of most expensive cards in the hobby, more or less being opened in front of your eyes. That's why a Shadowless first edition base set booster box is always a treat. And as we're watching it, I'm explaining some of the values of some of these cards and trying to explain the grading process and, the huge difference that condition makes in the price of cards and, all the stuff you guys already know. But I'm trying to explain to them without going too in-depth, Can only talk about grading cards and, what are you looking for? What is whitening around the borders? How you can't see surface, hollow scratch, print lines, stuff like, centering. Stuff like that is pretty hard to, explain to people while you're sitting down trying to play some fun games and just happen to put on a, base set booster box being open on television. But as we were discussing this, I can see the enjoyment that they were getting while watching this. But I don't think it was all about the dollar amounts either. I think the dollar amounts for these cards definitely pique their interest because it is crazy to think of how much a Shadowless first edition Charizard and PSA 10 can go for. And I didn't even get into talking about the fact that you could have the Logan Paul pedigree on these cards or anything like that because that would just go over their heads. But they were then they get excited and they want to go back and find their old Pokemon collections. And I always run across people who have old collections that they sold at tag sales or they think their parents threw out or they don't know where it is or they personally were the ones to throw it out. And every time somebody talks about Pokemon, I watch their character. I'm a very good read of characters most of the time. And I like to watch facial expressions. And, you can usually tell when somebody's telling the truth or somebody's lying. But every time Pokemon has ever come up in a group, anytime people talk about Pokemon, you could always see that like twinkle in their eye and the excitement that they get just talking about, Pokemon, which for a lot of people, yeah, for me, for you guys, it's something we deal with on a daily basis. And, probably a decent part of our lives in some way revolves around the hobby. But for other people, you're talking people that have been out of the hobby for 10 to 20 years. But yet when it comes up, they still enjoy it and they still have that excitement for it. And it's amazing to see that. I wouldn't call it a fire in people. I have the fire, but for other people, it's almost like a fire was burning, but all you have left are like the coals. But as you go up to that old burnt out fire, the coals are still a little hot, and you could start poking the stick in the fire, and you start to see those embers get real red, and then eventually you see a little flame happens. And it's exactly the same thing when I bring up Pokemon to people. It's amazing, but it doesn't even end there. So the next day, me and my wife, we went to the vineyard with a different group of friends. And while we were at the vineyard, just normal conversation you have with your friends. What did you guys do last night? And my wife told them that we went to sushi with one of my coworkers and his girlfriend. And after we got back, we were playing games. And then my wife brought up the Logan Paul box break. And instantly, again, a completely different group of friends that were not involved in Saturday night's box break with us at all. As soon as Pokemon got brought up, again, you can start to see the fire and excitement in these guys' eyes. And, my friends, it's like any group of friends, right? They start making jokes like, because these are my friends that I grew up with when I was real young. They start making jokes about like, oh, how all their cards were always beating the other guy. And, even though they probably didn't even really know how to play the game, or maybe they did, I don't even know. But then my buddy starts to say, oh, yeah, I got a Charizard at home, because everybody says they have a Charizard, right? And I just entertain it. And then my wife starts bringing up the prices of all these cards, because it has been brought up a little bit more recently, especially in our household, than it ever has really in the past. So then my friends are like, oh, I got all these cards too. And the night of, I get a text message from my friend with his old binder. And I'll throw up the photo right now, what the photo is. And he sent me a photo of the starting three, which, first of all, the way he organized this binder is infuriating. I mean, who lines it up with evolutions of the starters? But hey, when you were a kid, I guess you could make your binder however you want, and I would always put mine in order from 1 through 102. But hey, anyways, while we were still at the vineyard, he started saying, oh yeah, I still remember, like, I had an Alakazam. I remember that was number 1. And I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, well, and then we started to, can you remember all the hollows? So I'm not going to just list them all off right away. So I let those guys do as many as they could. And then as soon as they couldn't think of any more, I just obviously be me, and I just listed off every single hollow in order, and then went through like all the uncommons and most of the commons before I had to stop myself before I got to all 102 of them. And normally you think people would look at you like you're crazy, but these guys, they were loving it. They were loving talking about Pokemon. They were loving reliving all this experience. Again, we're talking about people who have not gone through their cards in close to 2 decades. These are guys that grew up on the original base set. Maybe made it to Jungle, maybe made it to Fossil, but I don't know. So when he sent me a photo of his binder, the first question he asked is, what is this worth? And I can't give him an answer to that. One, he sent me one page with 9 cards. Yeah, sure, there are 3 of the big heavy hitters, but, you know, without being able to see condition or anything, there's no way, you know, just the Charizard alone, the difference in condition is so drastic when it comes to price. But the only advice I gave him is, listen, please do not take your cards out of that binder. Do not handle them. That's all I asked. And that was the only thing I said back to him, besides, I'll look at your cards and I'll let you know. But please, don't touch your cards. Don't play with them. So the reason I made this video, though, is because, you know, I'm not even worried about the text that my buddy sent me on Sunday night showing me the cards he has in his old binder that now he wants to get rid of. The reason that I thought about making this video, because while I was at work, I ran into my coworker and I just said, hey, did you have fun on Saturday night? He said yes. And then he goes, we went to my girlfriend's mother's house on Sunday and we looked for her cards and we weren't able to find them. So they actually were actively searching for their Pokemon cards because of me. And as we were discussing it, it was pretty funny. He goes, my girlfriend asked me, are we sure we're ready to sell him all these cards? And it just made me laugh out loud, right? Because she's talking about being worried about selling me her cards that she doesn't know what's in her collection. Doesn't know what cards, what sets, if they're worth anything, but yet, oh, and she can't even find them. So no clue where they are. All that said, she still has an emotional attachment to these cards. So that's my reason Pokemon will never die. Because of stories like that. And I bet you there's a million different stories out there just like that. There will always be a fire burning in people. And I don't know exactly what causes a fire or what keeps it burning. I don't know if it's the nostalgia or if it is thinking about your childhood or maybe brings you back to, you know, better times, or maybe not better times, but simpler times where you didn't have all the stress of modern day adulting and stuff like that. You know, I don't know. That would be more write a book kind of stuff. Like, why do people love Pokemon? And maybe that would just make a chapter. I don't have the exact answer for it. But I do know that even people who are out of the hobby still have this strange passion for it. And these people with this type of passion, they will eventually flock back to Pokemon. And yeah, it always takes a catalyst. And, you know, in that situation, the catalyst was me putting on the Logan Paul box break. But different people will have different catalysts, and maybe people are driven a little bit by the sheer dollar amount that these cards are worth. I think both people I talked to about the cards, that was definitely what piqued their interest, thinking that, you know, you could be sitting on valuable, you know, Pokemon cards that you more or less forgot about. I mean, just think about my buddy's binder page he sent me. I mean, there's legit couple $100 worth of value there. Assuming condition's not terrible. But then you explain to people yeah, talk about grading. And should we talk in this video about the PSA's new prices? I don't know. Maybe we should wait for that on another video, because this is a happy video. You want to talk about an angry video, I could talk about PSA price increases. And yeah, the market, or not the market, but the hobby right now is real divided right there. Whether they think PSA price increases are a good thing or a bad thing, I definitely don't think it's a good thing. I'm very upset about it. But that's a different video. But we'll definitely, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. That's a video we need to talk about. But all I want to know is, if you could write down in the comments, just let me know, what was the catalyst for you guys? What made you get back into the hobby? You don't have to tell me how long you've been back in the hobby for, if it's been a few years or a few months or a few days or a few hours, or maybe this is the first video you've watched since you got back in the hobby and you've been back in for a few minutes. I mean, I don't care. Just let me know down in the comments, like, what got you back into the hobby? And, what's your goal out of this hobby? Are you excited about the cards? Are you excited about the thrill of pack pulls? Or is it the vintage that gets you? Is it the modern? Like, let me know, because I am curious, and I'm sure there's a lot of awesome stories out there. And I'm sure each one of you have your own stories, each one better than the next. But other than that, guys, if you've made it this far in the video, as always, if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. How come you haven't hit it yet? Just hit the pause button real quick, hit subscribe. Make me so happy. But if you're not new to this channel, hit that like button. Because I've said it a million times, with the YouTube algorithm, guys, if you do support this channel and you enjoy the content I'm providing, you enjoy my thoughts, or just me kind of rambling for a few minutes like I did tonight, hit that like button, please. It's going to help me out a lot. But other than that, catch you guys on the next video.